Good morning. Welcome to Monday, another week of trading in front of us. This is the Brew. I'm Lex, your host. And we're continuing our series of different kinds of spreads. Today, we're going to talk about butterflies, and Molly's going to give us a little intro to crypto. So let's get to that opening bell. Good morning, Mal.
Happy Monday. Wait.
I got to tell you, the Monday thing, because my Sundays are my hardest days. It's just a big party day. That's all there is to it.
You have Sunday barbecues?
Yeah, family barbecues.
Really? That's neat.
Yeah, I invite everyone over. Yep.
Is your daughter back from LA?
Yeah, she got in 6 o'clock this morning.
Oof.
And woke me up. So that's part of the grumpiness. I'm not really grumpy. I'm never grumpy.
I know.
It's okay. I'll get a nap later with my little puppy. So how was the weekend? Good?
Good. Still down at the beach, enjoying myself.
You and the beach, I swear. So this week, Mal, we're gonna have a little bit of a crypto week, right?
It's a giant thing to take a bite out of. We're gonna take it slowly.
And we're gonna bring on a real pro on Wednesday.
That's exciting.
He'll talk to us about crypto. So it's a good friend of mine from Zero Hash, whom we'll be speaking to, and he'll give us sort of an overview of crypto and what the space is looking like. There's a lot to talk about, right? I don't know much about crypto. Why am I doing this? Any reason?
Let me go with you. We're on a boat. We're all going.
You know what I'm doing?
What?
I know that little noise that pops up every time is that notification on my other computer, so I turn it off. That's why I was doing this.
I thought it was some Pavlovian trickery you had on me.
No, not at all.
Do something when that bell rang.
How good are you at crypto, Mal? Because I'm not. I'll be the first to admit. So your generation is better probably at crypto, sort of speaking. Mine is not. We're like, what the hell's a crypto? I would say
the next generation after me would be good. I think
they're the good ones.
I mean, percentage wise, I think there's a lot of people in my generation who know about it, love it, but I would say the next generation is just like aliens landing. It's just a part of their life.
No, that's how I feel about it. I don't follow it at all, other than the fact of where it is. And you gave me the cool website the other day, which I saved on my favorites bar.
Yeah.
First, so I know where the crypto is. I know it's about 30,000. I know that's Bitcoin, right?
That's Bitcoin, and you will put that link down in the underneath this video, so check that out. But it's a good place to see what coins are worth.
All right. Do you want to just give me the very 101 education on a quick crypto thing here, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I just wanted to intro that when you're studying something like crypto or even AI, you can go into the nitty gritty and the complicated, infrastructure. But I would suggest instead zooming out and taking a look at, well, what is money and what is this thing and how does it look on a bigger scale? How can I use it? So on Wednesday, we'll probably deep dive into very technical Web3 elements and, that are working in conjunction with cryptos. But, I think we're just going to do a very gentle intro and to always keep an eye on how does it fit in history.
So go ahead. Sorry, I had a question for you.
No, go ahead.
So I've heard the terms, fiat currency and that sort of thing thrown around with crypto. So I think what that means is that, fiat currency is something that's backed by a government, not necessarily the U.S. government, by a government, like the U.S. dollar, right? That's considered fiat because it's backed by the government. And there's talk, there's questions and debates about, will crypto become a fiat currency, something that's backed by the government? And my feeling is, the way I understand it to be set up is that probably not, because it's completely, the whole concept behind it is completely opposite from something that's fiat. right? Is that right, or am I thinking about
That's
this
a
wrong?
well, this is a really complicated question. And to understand crypto, I think we have to change the way our minds think about money. And it's like asking a fish what is water. So it takes
Oh.
some muscle. And when you say it's backed by government, that's true. So it's in a way it's backed by the faith of the government. And when you look on any dollar bill, it says this is backed by debt.
Hmm.
So the government, all currency in circulation at the moment in the U.S. is backed by the creation of debt. So when we have a quantitative easing,
Ooh, that's
reserve,
another fancy word.
and that's just an injection of of cash in the system and when we're in trouble. So when the Federal Reserve um, might buy our bonds, which is just giving us a loan, and then the government will the Fed actually can directly adjust the ledgers inside of the banks and also buy our bonds. And the interesting thing to know about the Federal Reserve is that they are not federal and there is zero reserve. So
Oh,
yeah,
so it's
why right. So why is that important? It's just important to understand, not to point fingers, but just to start to get a grasp on what makes money sound. And sound money is hard. It's called hard money. So
Mhm.
there's something called, and this is for the bar when you're trying to impress someone. This next fact is for the bar. So there's
Oh.
something we talk about, stock to flow, and stock is the current amount of that currency in circulation and in
Mhm.
existence, and then flow is the annual production of it. So you want that to be asymmetrical. So there's a lot of currency and you can't really make much more of it. Therefore, it becomes rare. And with the US dollar, what's happening is that there's a lot of creation of that currency. So it's a very low, even ratio,
It
which
falls
makes
from
it
helicopters. I saw it.
kind of.
The
They call it that, a
US dollars,
helicopter.
I saw it falling from the helicopter one day. I was out there with my
Right,
bucket.
right. It
They don't
feels
do
a
that
little
with
bit.
I think I know where you're going. They don't do that with crypto. That's a finite number, right?
Right. So then I have a question for you. What is the difference between a commodity and a security?
Well, a commodity is something like gold and oil and something that comes from the earth, right? I think, and that we can touch. My, I guess that's finite as well, right? The more I
Probably
think about it, I mean, as
something
infinite
rare.
as it seems, um, you know, I think it still has an end. Gold and oil and the like, right? And silver. So those are
Yeah.
considered commodities. And what was the other one? The other one was
Security. What's a
yeah, well,
security?
security is like, obviously like a stock or a bond, I suppose, something that's more, as you said, debt related. And
Yeah.
that's technically what when you go public, you're selling something, right?
Yeah.
And people are paying you for that, and that generates cash flow, or at least money, I should say. Um,
Right. So if we were to look at a commodity versus a security, that's the big thing happening in the news of crypto is Bitcoin is considered a commodity and the other coins are considered a security. And the
oh,
reason is that Bitcoin was invented by this guy Satoshi Nakamoto, and no one knows who this guy is. He's
is there a
vanished.
picture of him? Do we have a picture of him?
I know. I should have
I
put
don't
it up,
think
but
I
if
think
you Google him,
it's like
there's this guy.
Magilla Gorilla. I don't think it
Right.
exists.
Right. It could be a group of people. There's all sorts of speculation. It could be AI that had already reached singularity is considered to help um, uh, humans. It could be, a Trojan horse by someone, and people are wary of it. So no one knows who it is. No one knows who he is. But because there's no owner of it,
Mhm.
it gets categorized as a commodity in a sense. And there's also a limitation of only 21 million coins that you can
How many have you
mine.
found so far of
I'm
21
still
million?
looking under my cushions. Nothing
Nothing?
under my cushions. Yeah.
Oh,
And
geez.
so 21 million coins. Um, and I want to say 18 million have been mined so far. I could be
I
wrong on
think
that. I
that's
need to
right.
check.
That
Is
sounds
that
right.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's right.
And So anyway, that's the beginnings of it, and we'll get into mining tomorrow. But it's really important to understand what money is before you dive into the subject, so that you
Hmm.
can understand why this next thing I'm about to say would even be important, because it sounds
Hmm.
crazy. It
Right.
sounds just crazy. So we think of gold as this rare commodity, and if you take it to physics extremes, when you go back to the caveman, we at one point we didn't have fire, but then we had fire and it became necessity. So it was not a necessity yesterday, and then we've discovered fire, and now we can't live without it. So one thing today, um, things like gold do have uses, and it's the greatest reflector of heat, of, I think, radiation and heat. I could be wrong on the radiation, but I'll check.
Hmm.
But and it's also a precious metal. And when you're thinking about Bitcoin, cryptography is to protect something from an external third party source,
Hmm.
from creating more of it, from manipulating it. So in this day and age, with the dollar losing 96% of its value in the last 100 years, there's security itself to protect a currency from that dilution and its debasement, could be considered our new kind of fire. And so even though it's intangible, we
Hmm.
might want to rethink that security might be something we now need in this digital day and age.
Right. Right. Okay.
And yeah,
So you seem like you're a fan of the crypto. I'm getting the impression
you
you
know,
like this stuff.
I have been around long enough to never think I know. I know how much there is to know, so I know I don't know. And so I
Yeah.
am always researching, but so far, because I think I said that last week, there's a word called biomimicry, and it's reverse engineering nature. And if
Hmm.
nature is decentralized in itself, then that might be a very good, if we were only getting apples off of one tree and something happened to that tree, we're toast.
Hmm.
So in that regard, I do like that. I don't like seeing the debasement of currencies. I think, people work really hard their whole lives and then they have a rough time at the end, because their
Hmm.
retirement plan was just diluted. So I'm headed that way. But my questions, and this is probably jumping ahead, is how does quantum computers and AI affect the security infrastructure of some of these cryptos? And I like to just talk about Bitcoin because it's more of a bridge. It's closer to what we know
Hmm.
than some of these other coins. But how will those affect, like a quantum computer compared to a normal classical computer
Hmm.
working off of bits? A quantum computer can solve the remaining 2 million or 3 million coins in like 3 minutes. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not sure on that ratio, but it's light years faster. So can is it vulnerable to hacking? And it's
Hmm.
Bitcoin is written in something called SHA-256, and it's never been hacked, I don't think. And
Wow.
the Federal
This
Reserve
sounds
is,
complicated. I
yeah,
gotta be honest. I have to have a quantum computer to get my next Bitcoin? No.
no. So that
Can I go to the jewels and get a Bitcoin?
yeah, quantum computers might actually make it less structurally sound, but we'll find that out later. But
Yeah.
I think on Wednesday that's a good question to ask.
Okay.
But
Will's gonna take us through all that. So you're a believer then, I think, of this this whole crypto world of having that exchanged for currency. So I can go buy a car with my Bitcoin, or I can go buy groceries someday with Bitcoin. They're going to take that as legal tender, as they say.
well, yeah, this is interesting. So my husband Max and I have a startup, and we took some investment, and our first investment was Bitcoin. And
Oh.
we actually took Bitcoin as some of our first investment, and we uh, converted that to dollars so that we weren't speculating, because we were a startup and couldn't afford
Hmm.
to get risky. But that's a use case. And we need cryptocurrencies to get to the point where you can go buy a coffee. Then it has a higher acceptance value. which
Yeah,
also
but
gives
I
money
wonder.
soundness.
Yeah, you might not know the answer to this, but I wonder if, in order for that to happen, to go to the Starbucks and it's on your phone, do we have to find the other 3 million bitcoins that are out there, or that's irrelevant?
No, that's a really good question. So right now you can actually go, they have exchanges. So you never really touch a Bitcoin cold wallet, and cold wallet is, it's almost the equivalent of burying gold in your yard. You actually have the direct ownership of Bitcoin. But so they have exchanges where people kind of do that for you, and it's a bit like a bank. So
Hmm.
you can use your card and it reflects that. And some places do, like there's a bar that only accepts, when you go buy a shot, they only accept Bitcoin. They don't accept any other currency. So there's a lot of
Really?
places that are playing around with that right now.
Maybe I
Yeah.
can have like a Bitcoin wallet on my phone, like I have a Venmo wallet,
Yeah.
right?
And that's where Wednesday is going to be really interesting, because
Okay.
these guys, Zero Hash and William Klippel, they've built the infrastructures for all of these, and he will really know, where I think it like you said, it gets really complicated,
Yeah.
and there's layers of knowledge required, and we don't need to know to be active in Bitcoin. You don't really need to know all the intricacies of it.
It's the stoplight theory, Mal. That's what I like to refer to
Or the
everything about.
gaslight. Or the
Well, it
gaslight.
could be the gaslight, but the stoplight theory, and I always use this analogy when I talk about options, because do you hear that buzz in my ear? That buzz is another email coming. I can't figure
Are
out how
you
to turn
hearing
it off. I got
voices
to ask
again?
Reuven after the show how to turn that off. Because it's on the Apple machine. It's not on the other machine. What was I saying? Oh, so the stoplight theory. I use the analogy of a stoplight when speaking about options, right? Because options, and crypto for that matter, can be very complicated, right? Until you understand them. And then behind the peel and the veil of options are these, fairly intricate models and pricing models. One of them is Black-Scholes, there's Cox Rubenstein, there's all kinds of other ones nowadays, right? That price theoretical value of options. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And
I always say, I'm getting to my analogy. Don't worry. I
no, I've
know
only
I've
heard
I've
of
gone around the corner here, but I'm coming back. I swear.
I've only heard of Black-Scholes, so I'd love to know all the other. That
Yeah,
would be a nice
yeah.
show.
So, and then incidentally, in Trade Hawk, we wrote our own. So we kind of combined some of the best of Black. We combined the best of Cox Rubenstein and some others.
Wow.
Some are good for European exercise. Some are good for American exercise. So we kind of, made a little blend. But my point is this. You might not understand the exact derivation of any of these formulas, right? And you don't need to. You don't really need to, unless you're just you want to be nerdy about it and try to understand the mathematics. You just need to know what it means when you ride up to a stoplight and it turns red, or yellow for
Yeah.
that matter. What do you do when
Yeah.
it turns yellow? Well, if you're in a fast Tesla, you hit your gas and get through it so you don't have to wait. That's what you do. But if
Right.
you're not so fast, you say, hey, caution, slow down, I'm yielding, and maybe I put my foot on the brake, right? And then red comes, that's a stop, and then you don't go through the intersection. When green happens, you look both ways, you hit your gas, and you go through. Now,
Yeah.
what's the point? Point is that green, red, and yellow mean something to me. I know what they mean. I know what to do when I see them. I
Yeah.
have no idea how that little machine hanging in the sky makes that happen. I don't
Yeah.
understand the derivation of green, red, and yellow, or the timer, or all the mechanics of what's going on here. I just know that when I see the output, I can make a decision, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a lot like options. Not many people can derive, the fundamentals of delta, gamma, theta. Who cares? As long as you know what
Yeah.
they mean and you can react to them and make intelligent decisions, that's what's important, right? So, and I feel that way about crypto, because as I self-admitted, I'm terrible at. But I want to know what the red, green, and yellow is of crypto, so I can respond to it.
Yeah, I think the majority of people are unaware of how Bitcoin works. And the only problem is, and it's not a problem, it's just a growing pain, is when you have something new, the adoption of it won't occur unless there's an understanding of it, a rudimentary one, but just an
Mm-hmm.
understanding of it. So no one is going to take their life savings in dollars out and put it in Bitcoin if they don't know what it is. And people are solving puzzles, and that sounds ridiculous. And what is it, backed by nothing? Who knows? So they're, to dive into just a brief explanation of the simplicity of what Bitcoin is Bitcoin is a decentralized coin, so or is currency. So if the dollar is controlled by the government and the Federal Reserve, and we may elect those that are indirectly involved in that as U.S. citizens. However, there's a centralized control. So for a Bitcoin is on a what's called a distributed ledger. And so each one of our computers, so let's say you are mining Bitcoin and I'm mining Bitcoin, or you're just buying a coffee. We're going to take it all the way to the future. Let's say you're buying a coffee and I receive the coffee because I'm running the cafe. Then that transaction will get broadcasted across every single computer, also known as a node. And so this ledger gets, and then it is confirmed by those nodes. So there is a high policing of the accuracy of the transactions, as well as transparency, because every single person who's involved in Bitcoin can see all transactions throughout history.
I kind
And
of like that.
yeah.
So my fear about that is being decentralized. So it's not backed by a government, right? Isn't there a possibility for fraud and scam
That's
to some degree?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Isn't that one of the risks? Like, I think that's one of the risks. I would think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
So and they were just saying what's out there. So the rebuttal to that. So Bitcoin got its first debut, not its first start, but its debut on what was something called the Silk Road. And look that up if you don't know what that is. It was kind of like a dark internet, dark web, and Bitcoin was being used for nefarious things. And so it had started out of the gate with a stigma on it. However, one can also use it to track down embezzlement and people trying to, because it's exposed on every ledger, so you can dive in and dig in and use it to expose certain things. So there's two sides of it.
Okay.
And the same thing can be said for the dollar. You have dollar being used for drugs, and who knows. I mean, it's not as if the dollar isn't used for the same. However, the other thing you want to talk about is has governments in history ever done anything terrible to its people? Is it important to remember that the government, we should always remember, serves the people? And I think there's really great people in the government, and you're going to have your bad apples. So in zooming out and taking a look, it's really nice to think of Bitcoin as possibly side by side with whatever the government's doing. I'd like to look at that scenario. So can two coins operate together? I mean, two currencies.
Do you know what I'm thinking? Besides all this that I'm learning,
the market
is I'm thinking, how do I weave this into? Let's take a look at the market at 840. That's one. And number two is, how does any of this have to relate with butterflies? Right? I mean,
because we'll be trading ETFs. We'll be trading ETFs with a butterfly.
Oh my goodness! All right, let's have a look at the markets. What do you say? I'm going to go green. I'm feeling a big green day. What do we see? We see green. Oh wow, the Dow's up 275, the Nasdaq up 51, S&Ps are up 20, almost 28, 27 and a half. Yeah, it's a nice Monday, summery Monday. I like it. I have not read the news yet this morning, so I don't know why we're so happily up today, but I'm not going to complain. And where's our friend the VIX? Oh, VIX is 16 and a half, still a little higher than I thought. So cool.
And you mentioned something last week about the VIX operating with some of these metrics. So how does that look? Does that look on par with what we should see?
The VIX seems higher to me than it should be. for A, seasonally, and B, what's going on in the market. And all that means to me is there's other things that are pending in the news that could cause a little bit of a correction. So it's not crazy high though. It's
Yeah.
it's still very tame, I'd say, but higher than I would expect.
And we have a lot of quarter end earnings reports coming up this week and next. So we'll keep an eye on those.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on those too. So we should get a list of those and find out what's going on
Yeah.
with some of these
Disney's on
individual
Wednesday.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah. We only have about 3 minutes, so I'm not going to get into butterflies.
Okay.
We're gonna go from crypto to butterflies in a very quick way here, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll show examples, and I get to use remarkable because
what is a butterfly?
The remarkable is working again, and I'm so happy.
What is a butterfly briefly? Explain to us what is this thing?
Yeah. A butterfly is either a call spread or a put spread, and there's iron versions of this, so we'll get into all that. It's either a call spread or a put spread that has a ratio of the following: long one option, short two other options, long a third. Now, the way it's set up is that the long, let's take a call side first. The long is a lower strike. It can be a lower strike. The short is higher than that long times 2. It's a ratio of 2. And the third long is above it. So it forms a 1 by 2 in the middle shorts by 1 on the top. And the reason it's if you notice, you have 2 longs and 2 shorts. So there's net 0 units. I call these units when there's no exposure to units. So that spread that we construct a butterfly is going to have they're typically debits, almost always debits when you're long them. Occasionally I've legged into something in the old days on the floor for a credit, which is next to impossible. But they're debits. You pay a small amount of money so that you can have a zone in this butterfly that makes you a decent amount of money. And it's a finite number, right, that you can make, and it's a finite number that you can lose, right? So it's very low risk, low reward sort of spread. It's especially good in higher implied volatility moments, in that the spread's probably cheaper because you're selling 2 of the meaty options and you're buying, one of not so meaty. And we'll see that. We'll draw that out as well. The downside of doing these things in higher implied volatility environments is that you have bigger movement because the volatility is higher, right? So what you want to happen in a butterfly is have the underlying asset, the stock or the ETF or whatever it is, sort of creep up to or down to your short strike, because it's like a little hat, and we'll see a picture of it next time. And the hat is the best part. So it's that short strike is where you want it to creep to. No fast movements in butterflies unless you're short them. And again, we'll talk about the other side of them tomorrow. But you want to creep to that spot. Butterfly, my favorite trade.
Okay. And how many butterfly versions of butterflies is there?
Infinite, because you can set these up strike wise. They can be uniform strikes, or they can be what we call broken wing, where they're not uniform and you're taking more of a bet on certain directions. And butterflies can be very directional too, right? You can absolutely have these directional. And again, just one quick interlude here before we close. Traders, the market making community, don't do butterflies as a butterfly, right? Unless someone comes in and asks for a butterfly market, right? They'll give the other side of it. They typically trade in and out, and you end up in certain positions that look like butterflies with a graph, and it could be a hodgepodge of things. So I love butterflies because I like to be short premium, so I collect theta. That was always a good thing, and I didn't want to be short too many units in case there's a big binary move, I get blown out. At least I knew what I could lose with butterflies. So I always like to have those on. Those are always things that were very common for us. All right, I think we're out of time. What else can we say before we leave?
Well, I would like tomorrow if we could do a butterfly on a crypto ETF. Is that even possible? Can you do butterflies?
Isn't there BITO? Isn't that an ETF?
I think there are so many crypto ETFs.
You got to research for me and tell me which ETF we can do.
Okay.
Because I will, if you do it. Oh yeah, BITO. I think that's one of them. It's a $15. We're doing a butterfly in BITO. Although I'm looking at the markets now. Who wants to play in 80 cents at 202 is the width of a market? Yeah, let's get on that one. Woo! That one sounds fun. This will be a hard one to get on, but so markets are so wide. And don't forget to go buy a lotto ticket because it's 1.5 billion. Unless someone
gosh.
1.5 billion. Everyone's like, well, Lex, listen, you have no chance of winning because the odds are like 1 in some gigantic number. And I'm like, yeah, but guess what? If I don't have a ticket at all, I have no chance of winning. If I have one ticket, one number, at least I have a chance.
Okay,
right?
well, which one do you get? How when you go
Oh,
down to get
you'll see it. I have a little app on
Okay.
my phone. It's I
Okay.
think it's Mega Millions or Powerball. It's across the whole
Okay, I'm
country,
gonna go get one today, and so I'm gonna let's show ours tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, and I have a numbers I always pick, and I pick one rando quick pick, and that's it. Because you know, if I win the 1.5 billion,
well, you're still gonna come every morning, right?
I'll still
on Mondays.
be here. Yeah, I'll still be here on
thanks,
Mondays.
Lex.
Yeah. So, all right, we got to
you.
go, Mal. We'll talk about all this stuff tomorrow.
All right,
Sound
Lex.
good? All
Sounds
right.
great.
That's
Bye.
a wrap. See you tomorrow.